They didn't tell you the truth. They taught you how to fit in, how to color inside the lines, how to follow instructions. But they forgot to tell you that your soul wasn't built for mediocrity. They forgot to mention that inside you is a voice, quiet, often ignored, that knows you're capable of more. Not just more money or more fame, but more depth, more clarity, more discipline, more character. That voice has been whispering all your life, this isn't all there is. You're meant for something greater. And you felt it, on the edge of sleep, in the middle of a long night, or after a failure that stung too deep to forget. But mediocrity is clever. It wears disguises. It shows up in excuses that sound reasonable, in habits that feel harmless, in friends who tell you to relax, in a culture that rewards comfort over character. Mediocrity doesn't walk in through the front door. It slides in quietly when you stop being intentional, when you stop asking more of yourself, when you stop holding the line. And here's the brutal truth: if you don't rise with purpose, you sink by default. You don't drift to greatness. You drift to decay. Nature has no patience for people who refuse to grow. Time will either expose your discipline or your delusion. And no one is coming to save you. No mentor, no book, no guru can make the decision for you. At some point, you must look in the mirror and say, enough. You were not born for mediocrity. But mediocrity is where you'll end up if you do nothing. You don't need more motivation. You need a reason. A reason to get up early. A reason to sharpen your mind. A reason to get serious about who you are becoming. Because if you don't have a reason, you'll keep getting distracted by what doesn't matter. You'll keep living for weekends. You'll keep waiting for inspiration. You'll keep scrolling instead of studying, wishing instead of working, hoping instead of building. Hope is not a strategy. Discipline is. Structure is. Responsibility is. That's what separates the powerful from the passive. Powerful people do not wait for the world to give them permission. They command themselves. They lead themselves. They don't chase validation, they earn it, quietly, through consistency, through sacrifice, through invisible victories that no one ever sees. The people you admire? The ones who walk with weight, who speak with clarity, who live with intention. They were not lucky. They were not chosen. They were disciplined. And that discipline was born the moment they got tired of their own excuses. And if you've had enough of your own patterns, of your own self-betrayal, then now is the time. Because no one escapes the law of becoming. You either become more, or you get left behind. You want to change your life? Change your standards. Raise the bar on how you show up. Not once, not when you feel like it, but every day. Set a new minimum for your effort. For your focus. For your word. That's how change starts, not by adding something new, but by cutting off the old. The sloppy thinking. The casual commitments. The vague goals. The inconsistent action. Cut it off. Every day, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. You're either voting for the warrior or the weakling. The disciplined or the drifter. The student or the victim. And your results don't lie. They will tell you the truth long after your words stop matching. So what are you becoming? If your answer is unclear, then it's time to get serious. Time to ask better questions. What do I stand for? What am I building? What am I tolerating that I wouldn't tolerate in someone I respect? Because you are training yourself every day, whether you mean to or not. You're training yourself to flinch or to face. To quit or to rise. To run toward growth or away from it. And you cannot fake that. Not forever. Eventually, life puts you on stage and says, now, perform. And when that day comes, you will not rise to the occasion, you will fall to your level of preparation. So prepare. Train your mind like it matters, because it does. You will never out-earn, outbuild, or outlead your mindset. If your mind is cluttered, your life will be. If your thoughts are reactive, your choices will be. If your beliefs are weak, your results will be too. Read the books. Study the greats. Sit in silence. Challenge your assumptions. Discipline your attention. Most people can't focus for 5 minutes. They are prisoners of their own mind. You cannot lead anyone, including yourself, until you free your mind from mediocrity. And remember this, the world will try to sell you easy. It will dress up shortcuts as success. It will tell you to avoid pain, to avoid struggle, to avoid responsibility. But that's the path to regret, not greatness. There is no greatness without effort. No mastery without repetition. No character without adversity. So lean into it. Embrace the pressure. That pressure you feel when life demands more from you, that's not punishment. That's your invitation. That's life saying, you're ready to become something more. But no one becomes more by staying the same. Excellence isn't an act, it's a habit. A philosophy. A way of living. It shows up in the details. In how you do the small things. In how you treat your time. In what you say yes to, and what you refuse to tolerate anymore. And here's the key, excellence begins long before the results do. It starts when no one's watching. When you study while others sleep. When you train while others coast. When you choose to be uncommon, even when it doesn't pay off yet. Because eventually, it will. Eventually, the results catch up to the habits. The world starts to reflect who you've become. You don't chase confidence, it flows from the evidence. The evidence that you've shown up, consistently, when it was hard. The evidence that you've kept your word, even when no one would have noticed if you didn't. The evidence that you've lived by principle, not emotion. That's what separates the powerful from the average. Not talent. Not luck. Philosophy. A personal code. A set of values that do not bend in the wind. A standard that holds you accountable because you refuse to settle for anything less than the best of what's inside you. You were not born for mediocrity. You were born with a conscience, a compass, and a voice. And that voice is waiting for you to listen, to rise, to discipline yourself, to stop wasting your own potential. So build the habits that shape greatness. Speak the words that carry truth. Do the work that earns respect, especially your own. And don't wait until life breaks you to decide it's time to change. Decide now. Move now. Act like it matters, because it does. There will never be a perfect time. There will never be less resistance. Growth is never convenient. That's why so few do it. Because it costs. It costs laziness. It costs comfort. It costs who you used to be. But what you gain is something far more powerful. You gain self-respect. You gain freedom. You gain the quiet confidence of a life lived with intention. And at the end of it all, when the noise dies down and the lights fade, you won't have to wonder if you lived well. You'll know. Because every single day is a decision. Not once a year. Not on January 1st. Not when things fall apart. Every single day. You decide who you're becoming by what you allow, what you repeat, what you ignore, and what you tolerate. Mediocrity doesn't ask for much, just that you keep hitting snooze on your potential. But the higher path? It demands everything. It demands your attention, your integrity, your consistency. It doesn't tolerate half effort or hollow goals. It calls for the full measure of a person. And that's why so few walk it. Because it's easier to wish than to work. Easier to numb out than to reflect. Easier to point fingers than to take full responsibility for your time, your attitude, your future. But the great ones, the ones who shift the atmosphere when they enter a room, they chose the harder road. They built themselves. When no one clapped. When no one noticed. When everything inside them screamed to quit. They kept going. Because the person who keeps going, after failure, after rejection, after self-doubt, that person becomes unbreakable. And it's not just about achievement. It's about identity. When you show up over and over again, despite the fear, despite the pressure, you prove to yourself that you are someone who can be counted on. And that is everything. Because here's the truth, your self-worth is not found in the mirror. It's not handed to you in praise or likes or awards. It's earned in the invisible hours. In the moments when it would have been easier to give less, but you didn't. You gave more. You gave better. You gave your all. You made the call. You wrote the page. You did the reps, you forgave when it hurt. You stayed in the fight when it got hard. And little by little, you became someone you could respect. Someone you could trust. And when that happens, when you trust yourself, no one can take that from you. Because the world can take your job. It can take your money. It can even take your applause. But it can't take your growth. It can't take your discipline. It can't take your inner transformation. Because those things live inside you. Built by you. Protected by your daily decisions. You want to change your life? Then stop waiting for external permission. Start leading yourself. You don't need to be perfect. But you must be persistent. You don't need to have all the answers. But you must be teachable. You don't need to be the smartest in the room. But you better have the strongest work ethic in it. Because this world gives to those who give first, who give their energy, their focus, their effort, their full presence, without needing applause in return. And if you give long enough, consistently enough, you will look up one day and realize you've become the kind of person you once looked up to. Not because it was easy, but because you refused to settle. Because you finally understood that the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is who you are willing to become. So, become. Become the kind of person whose word means something. Become the kind of person who shows up with fire in their eyes. Become the kind of person who doesn't crumble when things get hard, but rises. There's greatness in you. There always has been. But it will not reveal itself until you demand more from yourself than anyone ever has. Not because the world expects it, but because you do. Because you refuse to die with potential still locked inside you. Because you refuse to be another story of wasted talent and almost. Because you've seen what mediocrity looks like, and you're done playing that game. This is your time. Not next year. Not someday. Now. Now is the time to change. Now is the time to recommit. Now is the time to draw a line in the sand and say, no more half effort. No more distractions. No more playing small. Because you won't get this life twice. You don't get to rehearse. You don't get a do-over. This is it, your one shot at becoming the person you were designed to be. And most people waste it. Not because they're evil. Not because they're weak. But because they forget. They forget they have power. They forget they have choice. They forget they're the author, not the victim. They forget that every day they settle, they're writing a story their future self will have to live in. But not you. Not if you're awake. Not if you're listening. Not if you felt that restless fire deep down inside, the one that says, I was meant for more than this. Because you were. You were meant to build something that outlives you. To stand for something that outlasts applause. To become someone your future children, your community, your world can look at and say, that's what integrity looks like. That's what discipline looks like. That's what purpose feels like. But you can't inspire others if you can't command yourself. You can't lead others to excellence while cutting corners in your own life. You can't build a legacy on convenience. You can't plant seeds of greatness in the soil of mediocrity. You have to go deeper. You have to become the kind of person who doesn't need motivation because you have discipline. The kind of person who doesn't need a crowd to perform because you play to a higher standard. The kind of person who doesn't hide from pain, but uses it like a sculptor, shaping the next version of yourself from the blows life throws. That's what this journey is about. Not comfort. Not applause. Becoming. Becoming the person who earns their peace. Becoming the person who earns their respect. Becoming the person who can be trusted with power because they've mastered themselves first. So stop looking for shortcuts. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop making excuses dressed up as logic. It's time to wake up. Wake up to your potential. Wake up to your responsibility. Wake up to the life you're letting slip away each time you delay what you know needs to be done. Because when it's over, when the final chapter is written, it won't matter how safe you played it. It won't matter how well you blended in. It won't matter how much you planned to change but never did. What will matter is what you became. So become. Become the leader your younger self needed. Become the warrior your future self will thank you for. Become the rare one, the one who rose while everyone else stayed asleep. No one is coming to push you. No one is coming to fix you. No one is coming to carry your dream across the finish line. It's on you now. Not someday. Now. So rise. Focus. Discipline yourself. Build a life that reflects who you really are, not who you've been pretending to be. You weren't born to be ordinary. You weren't born to just survive. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to build, to create, to overcome, to lead, and to live so fully, so intentionally, that by the time you're done, the world is different because you were here. You were not born for mediocrity. So act like, because once you taste what it means to truly show up for your own life, there's no going back. Once you've kept a promise to yourself. Once you've felt the quiet strength of following through. Once you've stood tall in the face of fear. You'll never again be satisfied with the shallow comfort of excuses. Excuses might comfort you now, but they will haunt you later. Because deep down, we all know when we're playing small. We know when we're faking it. We know when we've betrayed our own potential in exchange for approval, distraction, or ease. But ease is a liar. It whispers, just take a break. It says, you've done enough. It lulls you into drifting, until you wake up one day in a life that doesn't feel like yours. Don't let that be your story. Build now, while it's hard. Show up now, while no one's watching. Strengthen your discipline before the storm comes, because it will. Life doesn't wait for the prepared, and it doesn't warn the unready. The storm comes for us all. And when it does, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your habits. So what are you practicing when no one's watching? What thoughts are you feeding when the world is quiet? What version of yourself are you preparing for tomorrow? Because your results will never exceed your standards. And your standards will never rise higher than your self-image. So if you want to elevate your life, you must first elevate what you expect from yourself. This is not about guilt. This is about ownership. Ownership of your time. Ownership of your thoughts. Ownership of your energy, your priorities, your potential. Because the most powerful person in the room is not the loudest. It's the one who knows where they're going and who they're becoming. And that power, that clarity, that unshakable force, it's not found in motivation. It's not found in hype. It's not found in external validation. It's found in the quiet, daily work of building yourself. Waking up and choosing excellence again. Choosing truth again. Choosing discipline, values, responsibility again and again and again until it's no longer a choice, it's just who you are. You become undeniable. Not because the world said so, but because your life screams it. Your habits prove it. Your presence commands it. This is the shift. This is where the old version of you dies and the real one begins. So don't ask for permission. Don't wait, because this world is starving for examples. Not more opinions. Not more noise. Not more people pointing fingers, waiting, blaming, hoping. But examples. Men and women who live what they preach. Who walk in alignment. Who do the work when it's hard and tell the truth when it costs. Who rise not just in success, but in spirit, because they've built the muscle of integrity over years of private victories. And make no mistake, it starts in private. Before the spotlight. Before the praise. Before anyone cares. When no one sees you reading. When no one sees you grinding. When no one sees you saying no to distraction, yes to discipline, yes to growth, yes to something bigger than your feelings. That's when you're forged. Not on the stage. Not on the timeline. But in silence. In solitude. In stillness. Because the truth is, the foundation of your future is being built right now, when it's hard, when it's boring, when it doesn't feel like it matters. But it does. Every choice. Every repetition. Every act of self-control. Every early morning. Every hard conversation. Every late night with your dream instead of another cheap escape. That's where your destiny is shaped. Not in flashes of brilliance, but in daily consistency. The dull, unsexy, relentless pursuit of mastery. And those who commit to that path, they don't need hype. They are the hype. They walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere, not because they're loud, but because they're anchored. Because they carry the weight of their own transformation. That's who you must become. Not a consumer of change, but a producer of it. Not just someone who dreams, but someone who executes. Someone who's not seduced by comfort, but obsessed with progress. Someone who's not waiting for motivation, but has standards so high, anything less than their best feels unnatural. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. Alignment with your highest self. With your potential. With your purpose. With the person you know, deep down, you're meant to be. But it's a choice. Not once. Every single day. A choice to rise when you could coast. A choice to build when you could blame. A choice to face the hard truths instead of hiding, because what you tolerate today becomes your standard tomorrow. And your standard becomes your identity. And your identity becomes your life. So if you keep tolerating half effort, if you keep tolerating broken promises to yourself, if you keep tolerating distraction, weakness, victim thinking, then don't be surprised when your life becomes a reflection of exactly that. You don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your standards. Raise them. Raise them so high they make your old life uncomfortable. Raise them until the people around you feel either inspired to level up or too insecure to stay near. Raise them until there's no room left for the old you to survive. This is the part nobody talks about. The death of the version of you that got you here. The death of comfort. The death of excuses. The death of stories that once protected you, but now only poison your growth. You want real transformation? Then understand this. There is no breakthrough without breaking something. No elevation without elimination. No new you without burying the parts of you that keep running from the work. So kill the part of you that waits for motivation. Kill the part of you that justifies mediocrity. Kill the part of you that still thinks you'll be ready someday. You won't be. You'll either act now, or you'll become one more name on the long list of those who could have, should have, almost did. But not you. Not if you choose to become the rare one. Not if you decide, fully, permanently, with fire in your chest, that your life will be a declaration, not an apology. A declaration of strength. Of clarity. Of discipline. Of legacy. Because the truth is, you are not here by accident. You were born in this moment, in this time, for a reason. You were given the capacity to choose, because greatness is always a choice. And you were given a soul that knows, deep down, when it's settling for less than it's capable of. Don't betray that knowing. Don't waste another year talking about change instead of becoming it. Don't waste another hour living at the mercy of fear, laziness, or someone else's opinion. Choose. Not once, but every single day. Choose to become the man, the woman, the force of nature that this world needs more of. Not perfect, but principled. Not loud, but anchored. Not desperate for praise, but obsessed with growth. Because that is the kind of life that shakes the world. Not flashy, not fake, but real, rooted, relentless. A life that cannot be ignored. So get serious, get clear, get aligned, and most of all, get to work. Because nobody is coming to build your legacy for you. It's yours, your time, your responsibility, your calling. And if you don't answer it, you'll feel it every day of your life as regret. But if you do answer it, if you show up, if you fight for it, if you stop asking, what if I fail, and start declaring, what if I win? Then something powerful happens. You stop surviving, and you start living. You stop doubting, and you start leading. You stop being who the world told you to be, and you start becoming who you were born to become. That's the path. That's the mission. That's the moment. And it starts right now. Because you were not born for mediocrity. So act like it. Live like it. Be it. And make no mistake, this path will cost you. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you convenience. It will cost you your old identity, the version of you that made peace with average just to fit in. But what you gain in return is you, the real you. The one who's been buried under years of fear, noise, approval seeking, and delay. You gain clarity, not from thinking, but from doing. You gain confidence, not from praise, but from proof. You gain freedom, not from escaping work, but from mastering it. And yes, it gets lonely. The path of self-mastery isn't crowded. Because most people would rather stay liked than become legendary. They'd rather fit in than rise up. They'd rather numb the pain than face it and grow through it. But not you. Because something in you is done playing small. Something in you is done explaining your dreams to people who were never meant to understand them. Something in you is hungry, not just for results, but for meaning, for discipline, for truth. And that hunger? That fire? It's your soul remembering who you are. So let it burn. Let it burn through the laziness. Let it burn through the fear. Let it burn through every excuse you've ever believed about why you can't, why it's too late, why you're not enough. Because here's the truth most people run from. The greatest threat to your future isn't failure, it's distraction. It's wasting your energy on things that don't build you. It's scrolling instead of studying. It's talking instead of executing. It's reacting instead of creating. And in a world full of noise, the rarest thing is stillness with intention. The kind of stillness that says, I know what I'm here for. I don't need permission. I don't need applause. I don't need perfect timing, because I am the timing. This is the new standard. Not chasing success, but becoming the kind of person success chases. Not needing accountability, because you've built self-respect. Not performing for the world, but living in alignment with a philosophy so strong, it governs your life even when no one's watching. And you'll know you're becoming that person when you no longer need hype to move. You move because it's who you are. You train because it's who you are. You execute because it's who you are. You lead because it would be dishonest not to. And you stop asking, will this be easy? Because easy was never the point. Becoming worthy, that was always the point. And that kind of worthiness? That kind of inner power? It's earned. One disciplined day at a time. One intentional decision at a time. One brutal, beautiful confrontation with the truth at a time. So rise up. Every day. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Because in that pain is your permission to transform. To shed the life that was too small for you. To stop visiting your potential and start living it. Not for applause. Not for image. But because the highest act of self-respect is becoming who you know you're meant to be. This world doesn't need more copies. It doesn't need more opinions. It needs more examples. Let that be you. And if you still hear the voice of doubt, good. Let it speak. And then outwork it. Outgrow it. Outlive it. Because you were not born for mediocrity. You were born for the kind of greatness that leaves no room for the old you to survive. So don't just act like it. Live like it. Build like it. Lead like it. And when they ask how you did it, you won't have to say a word. Your life will speak for you.